Today's guest is a former dancer, performer, and model who's transitioned into the world of fitness, content creation, and videography. She's trained as a dancer from a young age, earning a scholarship to a prestigious dance college. She's overcame eating disorders, therapy, and major life transitions, traveled solo, including a 20-day isolation across 2 countries, where she prayed for the first time. Now she's building a content videography course, helping people connect with the ideal audience through storytelling. This conversation will explore the highs and lows of performance, self-discovery, body image, and what it truly means to reinvent yourself. Maria, thank you for coming to the podcast. Glad to have you here. I want to start off with your dance career. How did you get into that? And was that something that kind of come to you easily, or was it something that you forced into?
So I started dancing when I was 5. So I'd always danced my whole life. But I never went to a really strict professional school as a kid. So I was like a once or twice a week kid that would just train. And in dancing, what happens is you have sort of 2 types of kids. It's the best way to describe it. Like kids that go to sort of fun schools for once or twice a week, which is where I did. And then you have kids that train sort of professionally from a really young age. So I always danced, always loved it. But I actually didn't know that you could have a career as a dancer until I was a teenager. I didn't know that was an option. I just thought everyone went and did singing and dancing for fun. I didn't know that was actually something I could do to make money. So when I was a teenager, I then started to take it a little bit more seriously. So I started taking extra classes and things like that. And then auditioned for dance college, and it wasn't easy. So basically how a lot of dance colleges work is because it's not a degree, it's a diploma. Okay. You don't get funding from the government, and dance school's really expensive. Yeah, so you're looking
How expensive are we talking?
You're looking at a minimum 10 grand a year, 3-year course, or privately.
So it's like uni?
Yeah, but you just can't get help for it. Do you know what I mean? So you can't get a loan from the government, so you have to pay for yourself, or you get a scholarship. I think it's different now.
So how did you manage that yourself?
So I didn't. So at first, the first few times I auditioned, I got offered places, but I didn't get a scholarship, which was heartbreaking. So I couldn't accept my place. My parents couldn't afford to send me. So I then went off and did my teaching qualifications and did that. And then I was 21. So I was quite old when I actually went off to professionally train. And I'd done my teaching qualifications. And the woman that I was doing it with said to me, I think you should try this dance school called Tiffany's. I think you should audition there. And I was like, am I too old? Because dancing, you start quite young. She was like, I think it would be a shame if you didn't try. So I went. They offered me a 30% scholarship.
Okay.
And I got a bank loan to cover that.
Wow. So
I went knowing, and when my parents sat me down and were like, you haven't got enough money for the 3 years. You've only got enough money for the year. And I literally was like, it's okay, because I'm going to go. I'm going to be the best person they've ever seen. And then they're going to offer me the full scholarship for the rest of the time that I'm there. And everyone thought I was fucking Delulu. I swear. Everyone thought I was Delulu.
You can say what the fuck you want.
Delulu, crazy. But I was like, no, I know if I get the right training, I'll be able to do this. Which is crazy now, because that confidence is something that I do not have now. So it's insane when I think that is what I said at 21. Oh my gosh, so much. I think just getting older. Yeah, when you're younger. So I went off and I did that. I trained for a year and I worked really hard. And I said to them, I can't stay unless you cover my course. And I got full scholarship for the second and third year. So yeah, so I did that. Obviously I had the bank loan. That was for £10,000. Obviously I had a scholarship, so I didn't have to pay for my tuition for the second and the third year. I just had to pay for my living, worked in bars, both where I was at college in Essex and back at Norfolk. So it was very hard. It was really, really, really hard. Probably one of the hardest things I've done. But I think because I was so young and naive and loved it so much, and the world, I wasn't open to the world or how horrible it can be or different things like that. I was like, no, I'm just going to do it. And I just went and I just did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think you touched on essentially what you described as innocence, and having that delusional innocence helps massively. Because I think as you get older, you get put into a box and you get told that's a bit too risky or you shouldn't do certain things. And then you carry that around, and that then stops you from trying new things. The reality of dance school, what's that actually like being in dance school? Because I've seen Billy Elliot, and that's as far as it goes. So explain to me what it's like being in dance school.
So I find it really hard, not hard to talk about, because they were 3 of the best years of my life, but also 3 of the worst as well, that I can only now recognize how ill I was and how mentally taxing that 3 years was. Now I'm an adult.
Ill physically or mentally or both?
Physically, the whole thing. So if you think your whole worth, even though you're dancing and you're an athlete and you're working on that, your whole worth is linked to what you look like. There is like an expectation. So food, I struggled massively with food, relationship with food, then eating disorders, which was something that I'd experienced before I even got into dancing, but then going into that environment where you were literally in front of mirrors all day, every day. Teachers would openly comment on your body. You were told, yeah, all the time. Like we had, and this is what I mean, but it was so normal to us that I was just like, well, that's what it's like. Fat dancers don't work.
I wonder if it's like that now, because with the new sort of snowflake sort of culture that's kind of come about, can you tell a kid that they're fat?
So, yeah, no.
I don't think you can.
I think, I don't know if it actually is that different when you're in these colleges. I actually don't know. I know of a few people that are trying to make dancing and performing spaces like a lot healthier and happier for young people. But all I can think is obviously the teachers are probably still of that generation that like literally we were told like fat dancers don't work. Do you know what I mean? So we used to have in our kitchen, there was like 6 of us girls that lived in the house together. We'd write those signs on the fridge.
Really?
Yeah. But it sounds mad empty, but it doesn't feel, at the time I was like, yeah, because that's just how it was. Now I look back and I'm like, because I went at 21 and you kind of think 21's quite old, but I look back and I'm like, I'm so young. And some of the girls that went, you could go from 16. So there was young girls there. So we had to do exercises like, we used to have to like openly tell, like the teacher would say like, what is it that you hate about your body? If it was like your thighs or whatever, and then what can you do to change that? Like everything about it was your appearance, everything. So it was really difficult. And again, it was so weird because I loved it so much, but I knew if I wanted to be successful, I had to look a certain way. My body had to be a certain way. And that was discipline, if that makes sense. Like that was glamorized. Like, of course, like I didn't eat breakfast because I want to be a dancer and I want to be the best dancer and I'm going to be skinny. Like that was just what it was. And I look back now and I think of like some of the things I probably said in passing comments when there were bigger girls at dance college around me, or things that I did around food and stuff that I'm like, oh God, that was just so fucked up. But it was just
I'm going to play devil's advocate here a little bit. Obviously, the result that you guys were after essentially was an extreme result. It was like taking your dancing to the highest level possible. And I think there has to be an element of extremism when it comes to diet. Maybe the way it's put across can have detrimental effects on somebody's mindset, especially a woman, a young woman. But I think also there is, I'm not going to say there's a place for it because I've not experienced it myself, but at the same time, I kind of get it as well, that these teachers or the way that they're kind of pushing things in regards to keeping you guys at a certain weight or looking a certain way, that is in line with the result that they were trying to achieve. And obviously you bought into that at some point, but coming out of the dance college, what was your relationship like with your body image, food, etc. once you come out of that? And then how did you manage to fix that, if you did ever fix it?
Am I fixed? No, I think, well, firstly, I think what you're saying is right.
Yeah.
You do, because when you are performing, you are an athlete. So there should be education around food and nutrition. You should eat a certain way to help like you with your performance, to perform your best. I think the issue I have with it, how it was when I was there, is I was never actually performing my best because I was so underfueled. And the only people that were giving us education around food were dance teachers with no education around food, that were also themselves had eating disorders, had really bad body image issues, had really bad beliefs. So our food diary was looked at by our contemporary teacher, who was just like, had no idea about it, just said like, why are you eating carbs after 6? You don't eat carbs. Do you know what I mean? So yes, there absolutely is a place. There should have been in that school, and I think in all schools like this, how any like sports person would be looked after, like a dietitian and like that. I never ate protein. I didn't know about protein. Do you know what I mean? It was just like dust. Do you know what I mean? I literally lived off cigarettes and Red Bull. And I remember at one point being like, I don't know if I should quit smoking. And it was coming up to a show. And when the teacher's like, and I used to sing as well. Not that great, but you had to do it
Do the
all.
teachers know you're smoking?
Yeah, everyone knew we smoked. All the teachers used to smoke with the teachers. Suppress your appetite. Like no one's going to say anything. Do you know what I mean? Like teachers smoked as well. Not all of them, but it wasn't.
Rough as fuck.
Yeah, it wasn't like a thing. But a lot of people, it wasn't like health conscious. But that whole world isn't. Again, I don't know now. We're going back like 10 years or whatever, but isn't health conscious. It's like image focused and like Do you know what I mean? What you do to look a certain way, what's actually going on underneath inside. It's like classic, like tits and teeth, which is what they say, like the show must go on. What's actually going on behind that doesn't really matter. I think when I then came out of it, I probably got worse, to be honest, when I was actually then started working as a performer, because then you went from when you're at college, you're there for like 3 years. Yes, it's an element of what you look like, but these teachers do get to know you. They know your work ethic. They see you in the studio every morning at 8 a.m. Do you know what I mean? So when you're auditioning for numbers in a show, yes, it's the most talented, but they also have a connection to you where they know that that person works hard. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you would like potentially, they take more things into consideration rather than what they just see in that audition room. I then went to audition where no one in the room cared about me. It was literally like, you have to look a certain way to get the job. You're like, not necessarily your weight. I think maybe a couple of times I had to put my weight, but your dress size and your measurements are at the top of your CV before you even tell them what your credentials are.
Is that the first thing that they look
Yeah,
at?
like your net. I used to have Maria Moore, 5'10", dress size 10, waist 28 inches, hips 30, like whatever, like 40, whatever it was, because they needed to know how. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's what they
your
needed to
dimensions
know.
or whatnot, yeah.
Yeah. So as soon as like you'd go for a job and then I then had to make money. Do you know what I mean? So if I didn't have the body that I needed to, I wouldn't make money. And I fell into modeling and hair shows and different things like that as well, which it was everything that like as a young girl I wanted potentially to do. But the reality of that, I didn't have a great relationship with food. Like I do think eating disorders are a mental illness. So there obviously was to play there. I'd already always had a poor relationship with food in my body just from growing up, just that time period in general, then going through that through college, then being out in the world and putting myself, I suppose, into industry where what I looked like mattered. It was really hard. It was horrible. And because I don't dance anymore now and I do miss it. And the thing that I hate so much is I think if I hadn't had all those like body image issues, I don't think I ever really, I know I didn't. I never reached my full potential as a performer because of all that noise that was going on. And I definitely probably stopped performing a lot earlier than what I would have because I couldn't hack it. Do you know what I mean? Like I couldn't hack the
Would you say that's one of your biggest regrets, stopping before you did realise your potential?
I feel like, yeah, it is a regret. But at the same time, I feel like I can't regret it because I didn't know any better. Like now as like nearly 35, I look back and think, oh my gosh, this 23-year-old living in London, she's clearly ill. Like she hasn't got any self-worth. She doesn't know, do you know what I mean? All of this stuff. I want to almost look after her and make her stronger because she had all this potential. So it's easy to be like, oh, I regret it. But I didn't know any different. But I think that's where then my, like my anger, yeah, I suppose, anger and frustration at the whole sort of performing arts system comes into play because I'll be one of thousands that were talented, that had potential, that had drive, that worked so fucking hard to be there. But there wasn't like pastoral care or whatever it is, you know what you get at university and stuff. There wasn't when I was there in these private dance schools, that wasn't there. And I just think there's all these kids that didn't go off to do what they wanted to do because they weren't
like
taken care of.
Almost like a conveyor belt, just chucking young girls with dreams into it and it's fucking them up and kind of spitting them out. And you've got the one or two that come out of the other end that are like high level performers.
Yeah.
What happens to those other, are you in touch with any of the other girls that you in college with?
All my best mates and we're all fucked. Like they won't mind me saying that. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's such a shame. We're fucked in a good way, but also some of them can't really talk about it, or like they still get angry in a funny way, but they still get angry talking about certain times like at college or things that was said or done to them and that. And that's what I mean. But it's so strange because they were still also some of the best years of my life. Do you know what I mean? But now, as like I said, like some of them have kids and we're older, and like I do, without knowing what it's like now, I do think if like my kid wanted to be a performer or to dance, a part of me would be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But then I'd want them to, because I want them, if they loved it how I loved it. That's amazing when you've got like a creative outlet and you have something where you can express yourself. I honestly think like there's not many things that have made me feel the same way that dancing did when I loved dancing and was in it. But without knowing what it's like now, I would be like, oh gosh, no.
Dreading it, thinking the worst.
Yeah, it's gonna. And I know there are a lot of people doing really good things. There's one, a girl, Steph. Steph Cross, her name is, and she's a coach, and we bonded because she was a dancer as well, and she performed, and she was in the West End and stuff. And we just started talking on Instagram. This is maybe like 4 years ago now, just like trauma dumping, like laughing, because it is a kind of universal thing that if you've been a performer, the jokes, everyone gets it because, oh no, yeah, we've been there kind of thing. And she actually now does go into colleges. I know she's been into the Brit School and to a few other ones, and like educates these kids, teenagers, on like body image and trying to help them move away from it, because it's not, you have to hate your body or be a good performer. Like there is like that middle ground. And we know that from athletes as well, right? You can fuel your body and be peak, like great performers.
There are parallels between what you described and boxers or the boxing world, because the amount of boxers, I used to work with boxers before what I'm doing now. They've got these old school beliefs and training methods and philosophies around nutrition. Like I spoke to one guy and he was like, yeah, I just eat oranges. I'm like, what the fuck, bro? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, and it's almost, well, it is passed on knowledge that's false. It might have worked for somebody 100 years ago and it just kind of is ingrained in the culture almost. And I think just going back to the boxing example, that's why when you look at, in terms of athletes, MMA churns out better athletes because it's a relatively new sport. It's all backed by science. And I think, I mean, obviously you're not sure what's going on inside the dance school world, but I can imagine there has to be a shift, or that's already happened, to kind of stop this from happening, because there's another coach that I can think of. I think her name's Liv. She's an ex-athlete. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you follow it. She talks about...
oh yeah, I know Liv. Yeah. She was a gymnast.
That's the one, yes. I think she used to do like dive into pools and all that sort of stuff as well. So she talks about similar stuff. So there are definitely parallels between what you're describing and other sports as well.
Yeah.
Definitely. In regards to what happened after, you've done the dancing, you've done the performing, you then decided to travel. What brought that on?
Oh.
I'm going there.
Okay. So I did performing, all of that stuff for like quite a few years. I was like 31 when I went traveling. So it's only a few years ago. So I went through basically a breakup, had been with someone for a really long time, went through this breakup and ended up just booking a one-way flight.
Where'd you go to?
So I had friends in Dubai. Mm-hmm. So I flew to Dubai first, and I actually ended up dancing and working in Dubai. And that was actually one of the best things that could have happened to me, to be fair, because this was 2021. So it was after lockdown. I'd probably done my last performance job without knowing, probably like 2019. And then I was teaching, went off to Dubai and got the opportunity to dance again. And that was actually really amazing. Like got to do some really decent jobs and stuff. But then after the back of that, I wanted to go to Bali to like find myself.
Like everyone does nowadays.
Oh my God, and it's the wankiest thing ever. And I didn't find myself. It was just absolutely insane. But yeah, so the catalyst of it was this breakup, which was just knocked me off my feet, basically changed everything. And was literally like, I'm 31 and I'm single and what have I done with my 20s? And I need to go run away. All I wanted to do was run away. So I literally just booked this flight. But then it was like COVID and everything just sort of unraveled like while I was away.
When you say unraveled, what do you mean?
So I'm trying the timeline. So I was in Dubai from the end of September 2021. So obviously COVID had kind of finished here, right? I needed a COVID test to get to Dubai. I needed to be negative to go. And then while I was there, it was coming up to Christmas and I was getting ready to fly to Bali and COVID kind of sprung up again. So everyone was testing. All my friends were performers. They were testing every 2 days before they went off and did jobs and everything like that. And I was literally staying with my friend in her studio flat. Mm-hmm. And there was a big event on in Dubai at the time called Expo. It's like a big business event, but it's a really great event for performers because they have a lot of like artists that come in and sing, backing dancers, all of this stuff. So if you're a performer in Dubai at that time and you got booked on Expo, you were set for months for work. So it was amazing, but you had to test every couple of days to do it. So my friend was testing. And then there was like this bit of this fear thing because when apparently Dubai had originally gone into lockdown, it happened overnight like that. Everyone thought they were fine. And then because Dubai just denied anything was happening. And then they were like, oh shit, no, actually you need to go lock down. And it felt like that was happening again. So my friends were like, if you're going to go to Bali, I think you need to get out because if this happens like it did last time, they're not going to give us any warning. They will literally just go, right, you're locked down. So booked my ticket, should have been flying on Christmas Day, 2021. I tested positive for COVID.
Nice.
Yeah, really great. And I wish I have to send you pictures just so you can actually get the full extent of this. But because I was staying with a friend, obviously in her studio apartment, and she was testing, if she had COVID, she wouldn't be able to work, she wouldn't be able to get paid, etc. So I was like, shit, I've got COVID. I'm not gonna be able to fly. Where do I go? And it wasn't the time where there was still COVID hotels. So you couldn't just, there was a time when you'd like have a COVID hotel and you'd book in.
I'm gonna say no because I was in prison at the time. so
right, okay.
So the whole, you remember people describe COVID to me out here. I'm like, that's just normal. That was normal life.
Okay, so that's
fuck funny. All changed.
No, so they didn't have these. They had these hotels that you could like pay and go into, and they would just isolate you. But they didn't do that anymore.
Okay.
So basically, they were like, okay, the government or whatever has these safe houses, whatever, these places on the outskirts of Dubai where if you've got COVID, you can go.
Okay.
So bearing in mind, up until this point for 3 months, I lived in the Dubai that we see on Instagram. Yeah, that was all I'd seen. I was like dancing and doing these jobs in clubs and everything that you see, like whatever, the whole image of Dubai. So when they said that they had this place, I was like, okay, that'll be like sound. I'm sure it'll be fine or whatever. So they came and picked me up and I got in this, literally the back of this van, and they drove me out to like the outskirts of Dubai.
In the desert.
In the desert. I was on my own. They took my passport. When I got there, they took my razor off me and my Marlboro lights. So I was absolutely fucking raging, and my lighter. So I was like, oh my God, where am I? Like, I have no idea what to do. I didn't have a passport or anything. And I kind of forgot where I was because I'd been in like Western Dubai for ages. Yeah. And then I was in this area where I was like, I said to the guy, like, what are you doing? And the look he gave me, I was like, yeah, I'm not like, I need to shut up, like whatever. And basically it was this area, and it was just this whole other side of Dubai that I'd never seen, because there's so many people in Dubai that don't have money, that don't live that life. That have come, so like I shared a room. There was 4 of us, me, a mother and daughter originally from India that had come over, had been in Dubai for like 3 years, that lived in the same room as their grandma and their great aunt and stuff. So when they got COVID, they couldn't stay in there because they couldn't risk their family getting ill. And a woman originally from the Philippines that rented a room in Dubai, but with someone else. She was like 36 at the time and just worked in the mall. Do you know what I mean? So I was like with these people that I was like, oh my gosh, I've been so, I suppose, sheltered, or just not, I hadn't seen this side of Dubai. Do you know what I mean? Before. So we were in this room that was literally, I kid you not, like the size of this.
Were you alone or were you with these people?
No, in the room. You didn't have your own room. They put you all in a room together.
Like a holding cell.
They literally, So they took my stuff off me, gave me a cardboard box of food. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay. Sent me in this lift upstairs into this room. I was on a single bed and I was in there for 10 days with these people. And I was like, this is wild. We weren't allowed to leave the room. Like the guards were like patrolling. Honestly, it was crazy. So you were in actual prison. Mad. All my friends told me I was in COVID prison. Like it was like the joke.
I had more privacy than you.
It was mad. Like
that's the worst thing. I can remember when I first started my sentence, I was padded up with someone and it was my best mate. But after a while I was like, yeah, I'm looking at him thinking, I'm slowly starting to hate you.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? So in there were like 6, 7 other people, whatever it was.
Yeah, there was 4 of us. But it was, again, I learned so much from that because I was, I was terrified because I was like, what the fuck is going on? But at least in Dubai, everyone spoke English. So I could like communicate with people. You weren't allowed out of the room. I had like obviously data or whatever because I was messaging my mates like laughing, like being like, oh my God, please. And they just ripped the piss out of me, which is what they needed to do because it made me laugh. Do you know what I mean? Like my dad was literally, I remember my dad messaging me and being like, oh, can you imagine the stories when they're like, Nanny Maria, what happened in COVID prison? And I wanted to break down, but everyone was taking the piss, but I actually needed it because it made it like quite funny.
Yeah.
So I was in there for 10 days. While I was in there, I had to rearrange my like flights and everything. And also just the kindness in there, like this, just speaking to these 3 women and like how this like mum lived there with her daughter and seeing them together was quite nice. Do you know what I mean? Because it was like, I didn't have anyone at that point in Dubai kind of thing. So then I got let out, like my freedom day or whatever, and booked my flight to Bali. But because of the time of the year and just because of COVID, basically at that time, you couldn't fly directly into Bali. You had to do a quarantine in Jakarta in a hotel for 10 days, which I knew I'd have to do. Like I paid for it. I wanted to go to Bali. It was whatever. So I was like, okay, it's fine. I can do this. I can do another 10-day isolation because it's not in COVID prison. It's in an actual hotel. Like this is absolutely sound. So I flew to Jakarta and got there. So I'd done 10 days in the COVID prison. I had 4 days out with staying at my friend's.
Yeah.
Flew to Jakarta. Straight away, they take your test, take you to your hotel. I had 10 days in this hotel in Jakarta, yeah. They tested me on the 5th day and I tested positive again. And I couldn't figure out for the life of me how I was positive. And I was like, well, what happens? And they were like, well, we'll wait until you end of your time, but you'll have to go to hospital. And I was like, okay, but I'm not ill. I don't think I need to go to hospital. And this was completely different because I'm now in Jakarta where people don't speak English. I don't know anyone on the complete other side of the world. I was literally like, what? I can't just call my mum and my dad. Do you know what I mean? Like there was nothing I could do. So I tested positive again. And I remember they'd kept me in this room or whatever. And the woman said to me on the phone, like, you're going to have to go to hospital. You have to pay for this hospital trip. You're going to have to go. They won't let you fly into Bali unless you do another 10 days and they check that you're okay. So I was like, okay. And I was like, right, please, is there somewhere I can smoke? That was my first question. She was like, because I was like, I had like an emergency packet of cigarettes in my bag. And I was like, there is, okay, whatever. So she was like, we'll let you go out on the fire escape. So I literally went out on this fire escape and was just in Jakarta, just overlooking the city.
What thoughts are going through your mind at that point?
Right, when I look back and say it now, it is funny, but I was honestly terrified because I was like, also I had been on it's not normal to be on your own for that long. Do you know what I mean? Bear in mind, I had FaceTime and stuff. So if COVID had happened or like in prison, where I don't have FaceTime, whatever, and I didn't have that connection, like I was going full on. Like if I watch back on my Instagram stories, you can see me like unraveling. Like I'm very entertaining.
Yeah, I think
I'm unraveling.
Isolation does change you. And had experience with this personally. I think the person, like I know yours was it 28 days or something like that?
Yeah, because then I then went into the hospital afterwards. Yeah,
it can go one or two ways. You can either go completely tutus and go nuts, or you get to know yourself, and it does change you to some extent. So for yourself, what was it more of? Were you like losing your motherfucking mind, or did you have like a moment of introspection? You thought?
No, I think I lost my mind, and I because. So this breakup has happened. I'd been with this man for like 7-8 years, and he'd been cheating on me, and I found out, and he'd got someone else pregnant. So my whole life had completely like fell to pieces. Mm-hmm. Now on reflection, it was actually the best thing that could have happened to me. But at that point in time, I had no idea that it would be a good thing. So I had literally booked this flight, ran away, kept myself on like go mode, gone to Dubai, managed to dance, was with my friends, like started smoking again, started drinking again.
So you hadn't really addressed the reason.
I hadn't addressed it, do you know what I mean? I just kept running and then was like, do you know what? I'm going to go to Bali, I'm going to find myself. And then I just kept getting stuck in these like isolated situations. And I think that was the point where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not okay. Do you know what I mean? Like I had so much time obviously to think. And then they took me to this hospital as well. And I had this next 10 days there. And that's when I prayed for the first time. I'd never like legit prayed.
What brought you to that point? Because I don't know if you got a relationship with God or you're religious or whatever. What was your thought process there? Because that is very fucking interesting.
Yeah.
Because you being 31 at the time?
Yeah, 31.
Praying for the first time.
Yeah.
What was your thought process there?
I think I started to get a bit spiritual, and I started to lose hope. And because I didn't know where I was going to go, what I was going to do. I was on the other side of the world. I just needed something. And I remember.
Do you believe in God?
No. So I don't know why I prayed, but I just prayed to who.
You did in that moment, though.
In that moment, I wanted to. In that moment, I remember actually being like, right, let's just have a conversation here. Right. I don't know what I've done. I don't know what I'm doing. But if there's something I need to learn from this, please, can I just learn it really quickly? Because I don't think I can stay here much longer. Mm-hmm. Like that, mate, the isolation. I couldn't fall asleep without listening to Golden Girls. Have you ever watched an episode of Golden Girls? It's like a TV show from the 80s, yeah? I don't think it's your thing. TV show from the 80s. And the theme tune was like the only thing that made me feel safe. And while I was in the place where my VPN broke, so I couldn't get Disney Plus on my laptop to watch Golden Girls. And I literally found the song on Spotify and just listened to it over and over again about 7 or 8 times until I fell asleep. And I was actually like, I'm going full on crazy.
I was about to say, you're describing a fucking crazy woman.
Yeah, I went absolutely skit.
That's nuts.
And it sounds, but it was like that much days on your own, not feeling so unsafe. And then when they actually, they didn't, what else could they have done? Then when I was free to go, they just kicked me out of the hospital and I'm on the side of the street in Jakarta with a suitcase. Like, being like, do they have Uber here? Like, how do I get money? What do I need to do? And I had to get myself to the airport.
That's
and then,
terrifying.
Yeah. And that was
terrifying.
like, and again, I grew up, you know, you said it earlier, actually, when we were just talking about like when you're younger and you're naive and stuff.
Yeah.
And I grew up in Norfolk, which is like East Anglia, really little village. Like everyone looked like me where I grew up. Like nothing really happened. Do you know what I mean? So I was so sheltered as it was. And yes, okay, I went off to London and my world opened a lot from performing, but I still hadn't really gone through anything in my life that made me like had to get resilient, or like hadn't really. I'd lost like a grandparent and stuff, which of course is sad, but nothing really.
That's been put on your toes.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And then everyone has like heartbreak and stuff, but that heartbreak was my first heartbreak at 30, and I hadn't had anything beforehand to compare it to, and I just couldn't understand. I thought everyone in the world was good, and then all of a sudden everyone I thought was good wasn't. And then I'm then in Jakarta, in the side of where no one actually cares about me. I could just disappear. No one can actually help me. I'm the only person that can help myself get out of this situation. And it was like, oh my fucking God, like, what do I do? So, yeah.
Because I think in that moment there is that sense of hopelessness. And maybe that's why you turn to prayer. What do you pray about? That's what I want to...
I remember just saying, please, can you just let me be okay again? Like, I don't feel like myself. Please, can I just be okay again? And then, mate, I got to Bali and it got even worse because everyone in Bali is fucking crazy because everyone there is crazy because they're running away from shit. So I literally got to Bali and was like, right, okay, now I'm going to be fine. Everything looked different, smelled different, tasted different, sounded different. I was so overstimulated. And then I was like, what have I done?
So when did you decide to come back?
I was in Bali for 6 months. Because I think, so in that time, I was completely hiding. But like, to be completely transparent and honest, in that time, my eating habits and my eating disorder sort of, I don't want to say came back, but I suppose as for lack of it, came back with a vengeance. And that really fucked me because I was like, I'm in my 30s. I'd had these years where I felt like I was healed. Like I got to a healthy place with food, and I then started, it sounds so cliche, but when I started training, when I sort of moved into fitness and that kind of thing, and I was healed to a certain extent, but only because I had no turbulence in my life. I could control every factor. So everything was great. So then as soon as like emotional turbulence came in and other thing came in, I found myself like 31, 32, wanting to purge again and do stuff again because I wanted some sort of control.
That was almost like your default setting.
Yeah, but I didn't know that. Does that make sense? I thought I was healed. And then I had this massive conflict of being like, how am I this age and I'm still got this issue? And why is this issue came back? And you're such a failure? And why are you being sick? And why... Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then I put off coming back to the UK because everyone else, like Instagram or whatever, everyone was like, oh my God, you look like you're having such a great time. And I was like... The
most broken you've ever been in your life, yeah.
Just ordering Gojek food and throwing up every night. Do you know what I mean? I didn't see any of Bali for 6 months. Did you know what I mean? Really? People go, oh, did you see this? Did you see that? I was like, no, I was crying or smoking or...
Yeah.
Like literally being like, what the fuck is going on with my life kind of thing. So... Yeah, so that's why I think I put off coming back so long because I felt like such a failure. And I felt like if I came back, and this did happen, I thought if I come back, this is the thing. You know when you say like, you try not to tell the people around you how you're feeling because you're like, you want to kind of keep it together. Like I'm not very good really with emotion or being like, oh, I'm struggling. Like I'm just like, laugh about it, it's fine. But actually the people that love you know. Like they know, you don't actually need to tell them. And even though I was in Bali, obviously, and all my family were back in England, they knew I wasn't right. They knew I wasn't right when I booked the one-way flight, but they couldn't stop me. Do you know what I mean? So when I came back, it was like me sort of like getting up the courage to be like, I'm not okay. And they were all like, we know. do you know what I mean? But so I think I put it off for ages. And then I finally came back and then had that and had to address the fact that I'd kind of ran away and had these experiences, which again, I don't regret any of that because that I did learn loads from that. But yeah, I was then back and was like, right, okay, I need to actually kind of try and sort some sort of thing out here. Yeah.
So what did that rebuild look like? Because obviously you're in the content creation space, videography, that sort of thing. How did that kind of come about? What process and what journey have you been on since you got back in the UK after coming back from hell by the sounds of it?
No. Well, I wasn't in that then. And I think what made it worse is when I was going through all that, I was actually coaching online fitness because I'd started coaching fitness and like, this is so like it's laughable now, but relationship with food, because I had sort of got healed, so to speak. And I did like my training, I did like EIQ nutrition, I did my PT course. And I had a really good, strong, solid, like maybe 4 years of being like, oh my God, I just want to help all these other women that felt this way about food. And now I feel so good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'd already started sort of building my business about that. And then that was my only way of income while I was traveling, especially when I was in Bali. So that just made everything so much worse, because I was having to put up this front and create content and be like, Bali, living my best life, like love yourself, like not love yourself, but like, you know what I mean? Look after your body, nourish it, eat nourishing foods.
And you're not doing what you're preaching.
Yeah, there's no good or bad foods. And I'm waking up at 6 a.m. having a coffee and 2 cigarettes before I even start the day. Do you know what I mean? So that internally I was like, oh my God, who am I? But I couldn't, do you know what I mean? And I'd chosen this career. My job was then online. So I couldn't just take time off. So when I got back to the UK, again, complete transparency. I went on antidepressants because I got back and was like, I need something to sort of numb everything, to give me a bit of to be able to do anything again. And then but I met who's now my husband, and he met me like in the depths of hell. So he's either, I think he's as crazy as me, to be honest. I don't know what the fuck. Yeah,
he's sitting over there right now. I think he is. I can vouch for that.
So I wouldn't say that I can't say one thing, but I kind of came back, and it was just over the course of like meeting new people, meeting new places, sort of realizing I had to kind of sort things out. But I'll be honest now, if I'm being really honest and I'm thinking about it, it probably was the new relationships I made when I then came back to the UK that kind of, again, put me on this weird journey to be where I am now.
Yeah, you said something interesting in regards to antidepressants. I know you've spoke previously about therapy and self-work, etc. What are your takes on therapy? Because I've got my own opinion on therapy, done it myself, medication. And for you, what gave you the best bang for buck in regards to, I don't want to say fixing yourself, but you see where I'm going with it, like getting back to some sense of normality. What was the thing that gave you the most back?
I think probably, I'll be honest, when I first went on medication when I got back from Bali.
Okay.
Because I kind of dismiss it. I'm like, oh, it sounds so dramatic, because it does feel that, but I actually couldn't do anything. Do you know what I mean? Like I would just wake up and cry, like I couldn't do anything. So actually taking the tablets in the beginning and it numbing to the point where, okay, I can.
You can function a little bit. Yeah,
that really helped in the beginning of that. The therapy I had while I was going through all that, I think did help, but only because it was like somewhere I could speak about things. I don't know if it really helped, but so I think the tablets in the beginning, but I came off medication last year, and there is a time and a place for it. But in the end, I was like, I didn't want to be on it anymore. So I came off, and I'm pleased that I'm not on it. I probably could, I don't know how I feel. I'm not very good at knowing, to be honest, in myself, what I actually think of therapy. I feel like I know what a lot of people I care about think about therapy, and then I kind of take their opinions on.
Yeah.
So an example is like, you don't really do anything with therapy. You're just talking about your feelings and stuff.
That's why I believe, because I think it's like, it just ingrains further the bullshit that you've been through, and there's no POA of how you're going to get out of that.
Yeah.
It's all looking back, and I don't think you can do anything looking backwards.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, if you're somebody who hasn't spoke about things, yes, get them off your chest, but it can be dangerous, because it can then become a part of your identity. I'm the person that had this done to him, or this happened to me, and it just becomes ingrained even more so, and you get stuck.
Yeah.
So that's what I didn't like about it. Like, okay, I'm talking about certain shit, cool, what now?
Yeah, and I remember getting to a point with one of my therapists where I just wanted her to tell me what to do. But they can't.
They can't
and I was like, can you just fucking tell me? Like, because I just point me, you asking me, what do you think I should do? I clearly am not thinking straight right now. So if you ask me what I think I should do, it's not going to be like the best thing. But I do think I am someone that doesn't actually talk about what I really think or feel a lot. So sometimes I think me and actually my husband Lewis had a conversation about this week, that maybe actually some therapy, me doing that again, might be beneficial, just because I really do struggle with, I'm very, like, even now speaking to you, I'm so aware I'm doing it. I'm really good at disassociating. So I'm talking to you and I'm Maria, but like, because these topics are things that make me feel a certain way, I've got very good at sort of, it literally feels like I've done this. So I can talk to you about this now and hopefully articulate myself well and say about it. But if I had to actually sit in front of someone and
get
really,
to the nitty gritty.
No. Do you know what I mean? I don't like, it makes me want to scratch my skin off. So I'm not good at actually opening up properly. So maybe therapy would work for me like that. But you have to do the work. That's another thing. You have to do the work. And I've had coaches, I've had therapists, and the common denominator about it not working is me. Do you know what I mean?
So in regards to, you spoke about your relationships that you built once you got back. How were they different from what you experienced previously? And how was that the tipping point for yourself in regards to, okay, I'm going to start moving forward with my life? What were the commonalities in the relationships before you went away and the commonalities in the relationships after you got back? How did they differ?
That's such a good question. The one thing that really stands out, and I don't know how to phrase this, but I think you'll know what I mean, so maybe we can say it in a better way, is the people I've met since I've come back, the careers they have, the things they want for their life, the boundaries that they're sort of pushing and going after are at a level that I honestly, it sounds crazy, but didn't even know existed before I went away. And I don't want to say one's better and one's not, but as an example, before I left, this is just the easiest one to come to draw from. But before I left to go away, I'd never earned more than $2,000 a month. I didn't know people earned more than $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
I wasn't like my partner at the time worked in a coffee shop.
Yeah.
I just talked because I love dance.
It's the law of exposure. Once you're exposed, you cannot be unexposed.
Yeah.
So once you become aware of something, it lifts the ceiling.
Yeah.
And this is where you could get to.
Yeah.
So that's essentially what you're describing.
Yeah.
And I've experienced things similar to myself, just in the legit world, sitting with people and seeing what they're doing, and they're just a human being just like me.
Yeah.
It kind of opens things up a little bit.
I think as well, like the main thing is the relationship I'd been in for so many years beforehand as well. I wasn't ever encouraged in anything. It wasn't like a very healthy relationship. Like at the time I thought it was, but I think because I was obviously so manipulated, I don't know, whatever it was, but I had no idea. So I just had never been in a situation where I had a partner that was like, no, you can do that. Why don't you do this? Or got excited about ideas, or was like, yeah, you can. Do you know what I mean? I've never had that. You've got to stay the fuck
away from them people. You know, when you come with an idea and the first thing they say is, the first sort of reaction you get is to find doubt in your idea.
Yeah.
And kind of put that onto you. I don't think it'd work, or it's a bit risky, or it's whatever it might be. For me, I just stay the fuck away from them. I don't even share my ideas with those people anymore.
Yeah. And something I always think about, and I actually quite like this now because it's like, I find it funny. But I remember when I first started like trying to do online coaching, like I'd qualified or whatever, and trying to post videos or whatever. And my partner at the time just like would laugh at me, and I wouldn't post them, and I'd be embarrassed and I wouldn't do anything. And I'm like, now I make all my whole career is now doing that.
Yeah.
And also even before that, I was performing and on stage and stuff. So it's crazy. Like if you've got the wrong people around you that make you feel small, you act small and you don't know any different. So I think, yeah, coming back now, being just exposed to a whole different type of just people that build you up. Be like, no, actually you could do, that's not a dumb idea. Like you're not wrong or you're not silly. You can try that. And then actually, like, I think the same as well. I had this idea that anyone that was doing that stuff was really different to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you like
once you're in it, you find out that they're not.
Yeah. So those people doing that were like the people you saw on TV, or like they're a whole different thing. And this whole idea as well, to be honest, of like anyone with money was like evil. That was like a big one as well.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh my God, no. Like
they're the best people, I think.
What, people with money? No.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
No.
Not all people with money, but I feel like, especially with the work that I do now, the more successful the person, I'm generalizing here, they operate from a place of kindness.
Yeah.
And that's what's got them there. And I'm finding that to be the fact in people who've done really well. I had 2 conversations this week, actually. I had a conversation with a guy who's done really well for himself and somebody who was in my DMs and he's just looking for help. He's lost his job. And the guy who's lost his job, I was offering essentially free coaching over DM. I was like, what could you do to move forward today? What's the one thing you could do? I can see what you're doing. You're trying to sell me a course. I go, mate, you've got no money. What are you going to buy off me? Are you with me? But those are the exact people that are allergic to fucking advice. And that comes from being in a group of people that have doubts and see the bad in everyone. Are you with me? So I think, just going back to what you said, people who have done really well for themselves do operate at a different level and from a different place.
Yeah.
And I think when you're not in that circle, you're in a circle where there is doubt, there is scarcity and all this sort of shit, you just become one of them. It's difficult for me. It's been really difficult to get out of that. But once again, I think that the similarities are something fucked up had to happen to me for me to get out. So obviously when you've come back, you've kind of reinvented yourself, built yourself up, put yourself around different people, and that's been like the turning point for yourself. I want to talk a little bit about what you're building out now and what it is that you do exactly. So if I wanted to work with you, what could you do for me?
Okay, so now I work in content with online coaches. And the thing that I love more than anything, and when I started doing this, is the only thing that's sort of got close to that feeling that I said that I felt when I was dancing, is like ideas and coming up with stuff and getting creative about that. So I now work with coaches, helping them really identify who their ideal client is and then structure their content for them with that. And then I do the filming and the editing around that.
Yeah.
But the main thing I want to focus on and go into is really identifying who it is that coach, or any business, to be fair, because I now have started working with a couple of different like businesses and stuff, but who it is that they help and how can they communicate that in a way that is going to help that person. And I just love the idea of, everyone thinks they have to do content or whatever a certain way, and it's not that deep. You can just be yourself, like that kind of thing. So it's building out, getting you as the business owner know exactly who you help, and then coming up with the plan and the content around that you can create and I can help you create to actually speak to that ideal client. And ultimately, I'll be honest, help you make more money, because I have no interest in kind of viral or anything like that. The best thing is like when a client messages me and they've got like new clients and they're earning X amount of money, because I think that's so cool, because they can go on holiday and do this stuff and they've got these new experiences. Yeah. And I like it when it's not the people, it's again, those people that are like us. Does that make sense? Like, so that's what I do now. And I am now working on building out a course for people, nothing to do with me like filming or editing, but helping people identify who the fuck they work with. Because I think, especially with Instagram and everything, online coaches as a whole have just got really, as a whole in general, I think they're not very good at running businesses, me included. And I think maybe one of the reasons of this is because potentially if you've come from, because you were a PT, or a lot of females do actually, PTs and online coaches were performers and stuff before, they've got this creative thing about them, this whatever. And so when you're saying like the story, you tell yourself like who you are, they almost tell themselves, I used to, like, oh, I'm just a creative, I don't do numbers, I don't do money, I don't do whatever. But it's holding them all back. Like, do you know what I mean? Because it's like, no, you can do both.
Well, you have to.
You have to. That's what I mean. You have to.
Yeah.
And I think they're now a lot of people are falling in this trap of thinking they need to go viral, or they need to do what this influencer is doing, or they need to do that. And they're just worrying about shit that they don't need to fucking worry about. And if they actually put their focus on who they help, and they got clear on who they are as well, because I think that's another big thing.
That's very important.
Yeah, because I think people don't know what content to make, because they're so worried about what people are going to think of them, because they don't know who the fuck they are anyway. Do you know what I mean? So that's not something that I can help. Like, that's something Lewis can help people with. It's not something that I can help people with. Like, but getting that bit sorted, and then knowing who you help, and actually treating it, rather than feeling like you have to be this influencer and crying over fucking reels, like treating it as a business and actually having an impact and helping people. Like, it makes me, I don't know, this is obviously a me thing, but it makes me cringe a bit when there's like, I don't want to share this, but like coaches that should have businesses and should be caring about the people they want to help are crying over their views on fucking Instagram or their engagement or like that. Do you know what I mean?
It's a pure vanity metric.
I'm just like, oh my God, like what the fuck? No, like, I don't know, like now meeting people that are like business owners, and I've been now fortunate enough to be around some incredible women in business, and I haven't actually been around any really successful women in business until recently, and being around them is like, oh my God, this is fucking sick. Like, this is the kind of woman I want to be. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I want to kind of help other people that think that they can't do that. And yes, my way of doing that isn't obviously business coaching, but I love being creative. I love making content. I love helping people do that. So if I can take my passion and help them in some way improve an area of their business that they think they're not very good at or that they need help with, I win because I get to do what I love.
Yeah.
And then I'm helping them
Win as well, yeah. So you win twice,
do you know what
yeah.
I mean? Yeah.
Definitely. If you had to pick 3 mistakes coaches make when it comes to the content, what would you say they are?
Getting too caught up in the engagement. You need engagement posts in there. Like you need like growth-based content in there, of course, because you want more eyes on your page.
When you say growth-based content, what is growth-based content?
More sort of like clickbaity stuff, the things that's like more general, maybe not as, still niche specific, but not as specific. The things that you do sort of to shock, to whatever, to get pushed out, to get a few more likes, a few more eyes on your page. Like that's great to have in there. But I think people focus on that. Actually, can I take that back? That's number 2. The first thing is, I did something this week on my Instagram. I did a post and I said, if anyone wants help with, I asked, would you buy from you? Like this was my post.
I saw that.
Yeah. And I said, DM me if you want me to look at your page. So I had quite a few coaches DM me and say, can you have a look at my page and tell me what's wrong with it? Not one of those coaches had any social proof or anyone's face on their page apart from them. Like you went to their page and it was just a wall of them. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it was like, well, would you buy, if you were like, it came from because I wanted a new curl cream. I was like, if you were looking for a curl cream and you went on an Instagram page and there was no pictures of the product or the hair, would you buy it?
No chance.
Do you know what I mean? So I think that's the first mistake. They're thinking too much of them. And that comes back to thinking too much of them. Mm-hmm. They're not thinking of the people so if you actually want to use content for your business, you might be too many steps ahead for that potential client. Like they aspire to be you, but they can't see themselves in you just yet because you're too far away.
Yeah, they just want that next stepping stone.
The clients that you're working with now, they can see themselves in those people. Do you know what I mean? So you need to actually get evidence on your page that you can do what you said you do, that you say you do. Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably that thing. Then focusing more on like the engagement side of things and worrying because like coaches will not have. They'll be worried because they won't have a lot of views on a reel. But then I'm going, okay, so have you done any posts around your lead magnet? Have you started any decent conversations this week around people? And they're like, oh, I don't know. They don't track that, but they're so hung up on how many views the reel got. Track the views, of course, because it is a good indication to be like, okay, that did well. How can I redo that next month? Of course. But then also track your saves or track how many people requested your lead magnet or how many calls you got. Like, who cares? Who cares if your video got X amount of views if you haven't had anyone booked in for a call in the last month? Mm-hmm. Like that makes no sense to me.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, don't make it all about you.
Yeah. Yeah. You condense it. You make it sound better.
Just to summarize, don't make it all about you.
Yeah.
So social proof essentially. Mm-hmm. Have more broad, engaging content that is specific to your niche, but can apply to a broader niche.
Yeah.
Version of your niche. And the final one was.
The final one is probably, again, it's not so much about content, but it really does help your content. Like know who you are and bring that out in your content. Mm-hmm. Stop copying everybody else or thinking that you need to do X, Y, and Z to get seen. But I do think that's a really easier said than done because like I said, I don't think a lot of people know who they are. I always say it, but I love Maya's content.
Maya is sick.
Because every single post is Maya. Like even every meme she uses, every reference, every whatever. Mm-hmm. The reason that's brilliant is because no one does it like her because it's every time you can hear her saying the jokes that she uses. Like she's not using just cliche, like the meme that everyone uses, like the girl in the back of the car doing this. Do you know what I mean? She's using like specific to her and what she finds funny.
And what her audience can resonate with, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Her content's brilliant.
So that is like, but I feel like people would be like, okay, right, so I need to try and be more like Maya. No, you need to try and be more like you. But she's a perfect example, I think.
Yeah.
Every time I watch I see her in everything she does. The thing with Maya,
this is like a praise Maya podcast. Yeah. Into.
I absolutely love her.
The thing with Maya, she knows herself so fucking well. She knows herself very well. I had on the podcast last month, and that's one thing I've always said about her, and I've praised her openly to her face. I'm like, you understand who the fuck you are in terms of like I said, the humor, her culture, both sides, a white side of the family and a black side of the family, a Nigerian side of the family and whatnot, and she brings that forward.
Yeah,
and she's unapologetic about it, and I think that's why she does so well, whereas the majority of people out there are scared to say the shit that they want to say and come across in a way that they think is right. And I think that's, for me, that's something I've had to overcome. If I look back on my content probably like 3 years ago, I go into teacher mode. I call it teacher mode. I'm like dead robotic and whatnot. And I think it's a learning process. But ultimately, how can somebody, and you might not be able to answer this, how does somebody become confident in their own skin and be okay with who the fuck they are? How would you put that across if that is a stumbling block that you come across regularly?
I don't know in life if I can answer that, because I don't know if I fully know who I am in life. But if I could apply it somehow in a content kind of way, or like if you want to try and, I think you just need to practice. You just need to try the best you can. I feel like I'm not going to answer this very well because I don't know actually.
It's a difficult question.
Yeah, I don't know the answer.
It's a difficult question because this is the thing. If you haven't got that sorted, if you haven't done the self work and understand yourself, then anything that you put out into the ether, it's not going to land well.
Yeah.
It's not going to land well. So, I mean, and I suppose it's the same with coaching. When you have somebody that comes to you that has the raw ingredients, it's so much easier to coach. But in regards to actually knowing yourself, I think for me is putting pen to paper, actually looking at your thoughts and monitoring your thoughts and being really analyzing yourself on the level where, you know, you understand yourself and you think, okay, this is who I actually am. Once you accept that, then you can start to put the content out. That's what works really well for me. In regards to the other thing that you're building out, the course, what does that look like and when's that going to be ready?
Put me on the spot.
I am putting you on the spot.
So it will be ready by the end of Q1. So we'll be ready by the end of March.
This is probably going to be released in, where are we now? We're Feb, March. We're looking summertime. This is going to be released.
So it's going to be available now.
Yeah.
It's available now.
Hit her up. Buy my shit.
Yeah. So I am building it out now, and it will be like a walkthrough. Like you will work through it at your own pace.
Yeah.
But the whole idea of it is I don't want it to be this massive course that you have to work for. I want people to, if they're serious, you know how we talk about like people wanting help or whatever. I want it to be like, if you're serious and you do this step by step, you will 100% know who the fuck your ideal client is at the end of it and what to do about it.
Yeah.
So you can be on this course, you can blitz it in a week if you want, but you need to do every task that I'm setting you and implement it and do it and then go. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This is like, that's the whole goal of this, because I have people even now that I'm still having conversations with or have had conversations with about content, and it's the same questions as that I've been trying to help them answer for X amount of months. And it always comes back to, do you know who you want to work with? Oh, no, I'm still figuring it out. Okay, everything else you're asking me, none of it matters at all until you figure that out. So you have to go away and figure that out first. Otherwise, this is why you've been procrastinating for so long. Because once you're clear on that, then you're clear. And I actually think, you know, you're talking about knowing who you are, because it is hard. Maybe you don't. If you're struggling with that, go to who you help. Because even if you're feeling unsure about yourself, if you know who you help inside out, on those days when you're not sure about yourself, just take it off you and put it on that person.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And then create content or speak to that person. So that will help as well.
Definitely. And now that you said that, I think as a coach, you have to be completely client focused, and that has to become a part of your identity. So I think it might be a case of making an identity shift, like I help people.
Yeah.
And I help this person, and that's who the fuck I am.
Yeah.
Then it makes it that much easier.
Yeah.
Just had a bit of an epiphany. Where can people find you?
I mean, on Instagram, at content with Maria _ because content with Maria was taken. She doesn't even use the account anymore. So annoying.
Get off that fucking account. Make sure you like and sub to the channel as always. I'll catch you soon. Peace.